What's up YouTube, it's Jermaine back in another video, and this is going to be a story time video about the time I left the US the first time. Alright, so I want to say this whole adventure started about 6 or 7 years ago. I was on YouTube, I was watching videos talking about, conspiracy theories, and this one video popped up and it appeared to be like some expat, but he was bashing America, and part of his bashing was 1 out of 4 Americans have passports, and out of that 1 out of 4, majority of those are either from Central America, Europe, or from Asia. Pretty much he was saying that like Americans just don't travel in general. There's so much in the US that it could take quite a long time to just discover what we have here in our own country. So yeah, a lot of people don't have passports, and a lot of people in the US may not be into international travel. So after I saw that video, I said to myself, alright, I want to get a passport and I want to travel. I want to see the world. I was younger back then. That video changed me. It did something to me. So 3 weeks later, I went and applied for a passport, and 3 weeks after that, I received my passport in the mail, and awesome. I was ready to travel. Well, it took me about maybe a year to book my first flight. The problem I had right after I got my passport was I wanted to go somewhere. I wanted to travel. I knew that much. I wanted to go anywhere. I couldn't find anyone to go with. So that was a problem for me. I wasn't bold enough to just get on a plane and go to a foreign country by myself. So I was thinking, dude, this sucks, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Well, as time went on, I booked a solo flight to DC, and then I booked a solo flight to New York. And after booking both of those solo flights, I got comfortable with, traveling throughout the US alone. So I said to myself, let's just take it 1 notch up. Now it's time to leave the US alone. I can't find any friends that want to go. My friends are into other stuff. They don't want to travel. Let's just save money and just go by myself. So that's exactly what I did. I remember booking the first flight. The first flight was from LAX to Paris, and it was a layover in Atlanta. And I remember arriving to Paris and just getting off the plane, and at that time I thought the French were really rude. My experience back then was, yeah, the French was really rude. I remember asking for directions and no one helping me in English that looked as if they were from France. And that's just what I remember from a couple years ago. I'm in the airport. Now I'm trying to figure out how to get downtown. Now there was multiple ways to get downtown. So after asking a couple French people and just getting blown off, I bumped into this American couple that was from Florida. They told me, yeah, you can take a subway, you can take a bus, you can take a taxi, you can take this shuttle. And then they told me that they were taking this bus and it costs $15 and it takes 30 minutes. And the bus picks up right outside the airport, so it's really simple to get to. I could have taken a subway, but the subway was you have to walk down this hallway, you have to go down this way, you have to go down this way. This is my first time in a foreign country, and the biggest problem I'm having now is everything is in French. Whenever I look at a map, it's all in French. Whenever I look at a subway stop, it's in French. So I say to myself, let's just take the bus because it's a little bit easier to figure out. So I get in line, buy a bus ticket. I get on the same bus that couple gets on. They get off at the first stop. I get off at the second stop. And I remember getting off at the second stop. I was like, wow, I am in the middle of a foreign country for the first time, and I'm here by myself, and I am alone. I just felt like, dude, this is incredible. I've dreamed about this for years. Even when I was a kid, I've dreamed about traveling and going places, and now I'm getting a chance to do it, and this is real life, and this is what I'm doing, and this is dope. I remember it was really early. It was 10 a.m. in the morning, and I wanted to drop my bags off because later I was checking into my hostel around 3 p.m. and it was super early. I didn't want to walk around with this huge heavy bag. So I navigated myself to the hostel, dropped my bag off, and now I'm free. Like, I have, you know, a really small backpack, and I am in a foreign country for the first time, and I'm roaming around. So of course, the first thing I did in Paris was to aim towards the Eiffel Tower. I'm on the underground train in Paris, and I'm looking for the Eiffel Tower, and they make it really simple to find the Eiffel Tower, because when you look up on the maps on the subway car or whatever, it says in French, but the Eiffel Tower obviously is in English, because they want people to know it's the Eiffel Tower. I go to the Eiffel Tower and I'm like, man, this is so awesome, you know. It was just all crowded, and in Paris, the thing that blew me away about Paris, just going there for the first time, was seeing the streets and the roads, and seeing just how small everything was. Like, I mean, the roads are so tiny. No wonder why the cars are so little, because the roads are so small. That was one thing that I was thrilled about, was just how small the roads are. And, you know, look at these little vans and these little cop cars. And next was checking into the hostel. After roaming around the city for about 5 or 6 hours, I went to check into the hostel just to see what that environment was like. After I checked into the hostel, you know, I went upstairs, set my bags down, you know, put stuff in a locker, that sort of thing. Then I went down to the common area to hang out, and I just met a whole bunch of people. I mean, I met Americans, I met people from England, I met people from Amsterdam, I met people from Spain, I met people from all over, and I had a blast. Like, it was pretty dang awesome. And I stayed in Paris for a total of a week. And so what did I do when I was there? I did go to a handful of museums, but I was there for a total of 7 days. And since this was my first time traveling outside of the US, I just stayed in Paris the whole time. And I really enjoyed that. And the reason why I really enjoyed just staying in one place for that amount of time, the reason why I really enjoyed staying in Paris for 7 days, because now if I went anywhere, I probably would not stay anywhere for 7 days. I'd probably move around, was because back then, like, I was sort of an amateur. And since I was an amateur, I just didn't have the balls to just get on a bus and go to the next city. I didn't have the balls to book another flight and go to the next country. So that was kind of a really chill trip. Also, when I went, it was cold outside, like 30s, 20s. So I ended up staying inside quite a bit. I ended up switching hostels about 3 different times. But the third hostel I stayed in was St. Christopher's. I absolutely loved this hostel, because this hostel had a full restaurant downstairs, and the restaurant had a really decent food, like really decent food. And also had a bar, so you could sit down there and drink. But what we would do was we would just go out and buy something from like a little 7-Eleven type store, and we would like pour, you know, alcohol into our Coke bottles, and we'd just bring it back and just hang out in the restaurant and order something like French fries. And that way we'd be wasted, and then we're still ordering food from there, or we're still ordering drinks from there. Like, that's what we would do. And that hostel was like a hostel and hotel. That place was legit. Down below it had like pool tables and ping pong tables and all sorts of TV sitting areas, and I really liked that place. Even the rooms were really nice. Like, I stayed in, I think it was a 6-person dorm, and they had like bunk beds, and below were these like huge lockers, and you could put like a big backpack in the locker, and then you can lock it. In the bunk beds were they had these sheets, these really thick sheets that you can, like, you know, switch across, so you would have a little bit of privacy. And you had a plug here, 2 plugs here, and 2 plugs here, like in the bunk bed area. And you would have a light here, and there would also be like a little shelf, and there would be like a little rack. So if you wanted to, like, you could like hang a shirt, and this would be like in your little like bunk area. I mean, the bunk areas were on point. It's super, super clean. I mean, I loved it. The name of that place was St. Christopher's Hotel / Hostel in Paris. Who did I hang out with? A bunch of random people. I met a bunch of Americans on this trip, being my first trip outside of the US. So met a few other Europeans from other parts of Europe who were in Paris on holiday. I met a guy from Greece. We hung out for a couple days. He was staying in the same hostel, and pretty much he was on holiday for like 6 weeks, and he was just roaming around Europe, and he wasn't really doing much, just staying here and there and just traveling and spending money like slowly and just taking it easy, just living life. He was telling me he had 2 months a year off work and he had to leave and go travel. So that's what he would do, is just slowly make his way around Europe and then go back to Greece. And I'm thinking, man, that's like legit. Like, we should do that in America, like, because that's what people do in Europe. Not everyone does that in Europe, but you know, a lot of people do that in Europe. They'll take a few weeks off a year and go travel. The food, now, I'll just be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of French food, but so what? A place like Paris, you can get American food, you can get Chinese food, you can get Italian food, you can pretty much get food from wherever you can think of. Next question, would I go back to Paris? Of course I would go back to Paris. Since the first time I've went to Paris, I've been back to Paris 3 times. So I've been to Paris a total of 4 times. So yeah, I would definitely go back. Now, would I go back and just book a solo trip just to go to Paris? Probably not. The other 3 times I went to Paris, it was because I was going somewhere else and I went through Paris. All of my other trips have been 24-hour trips, and believe me, 24-hour trips can be a lot of fun. If you ever taken a 24-hour trip somewhere, you should try it. I remember going out partying super hard, and then, you know, 6 hours later, we're in a coffee shop and I'm just drinking lots of water and drinking lots of orange juice and eating French bread, just trying to sober up because I have 6 hours left before I need to get to the airport and catch my flight back to LA. I definitely recommend 24-hour trips, and how you can plan a 24-hour trip is, so you want to go to a place like Egypt, or you want to go to a place like Africa, or you want to go to a place like Europe. And if you have a connecting flight somewhere, see if you can stay in that one location longer. So when you book your flight, see if you can get a really long layover in that layover city. That'll give you enough time to leave the airport and go explore the city. You can have a blast. This doesn't work in every country, because in China, if you have a layover, you still need a visa to leave the airport. You might want to do your research on certain countries that you might want to use this for. I definitely enjoy 24-hour layovers. A few months ago, I was coming back from Cancun and I had a layover in Miami, and I stayed in Miami for about, it was like 16 hours. But I had a blast. I stayed awake the whole night. I drank, I partied, played Pokemon on the beach. Like, it was just one of those nights. But back to leaving the US for the first time, I thought it was pretty awesome to meet someone who had never been to the US, because up until this experience, I had only been in America, so everyone I've ever met has been to America. But then after I had went to Paris, I actually met people that have never been to America. And gosh, that was back then when I first started traveling, and now I've been to like 22 countries since then. That was my first country, and my whole goal is to travel to 100 countries throughout my lifetime, so I really need to like get on board. But there are a lot of small countries like in the Caribbean that I could hit up in a short amount of time, and if I spend more time in Europe and, you know, do a train pass, I can see a whole bunch of countries in a short amount of time. But the whole deal with me is I wasn't really aiming to go to as many countries. I was more aiming to go to the continents. So that way I could say I've been to all the continents, and I guess I have been to all the continents except for Australia and Antarctica. I don't really include Antarctica as a true continent because they don't have a president or an international airport, and no one really lives there. Nothing really comes from there. The world does not trade anything with Antarctica, so I consider Antarctica like a really big rock or a really big piece of ice. But that's just my thoughts. Maybe you went to a different elementary school and they taught you something completely different about Antarctica. But that's just my thought of Antarctica. But anyway, I'm going to keep this story time short. Thanks a lot for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.